Welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
What is up, everyone? I just want you to look at this. Yeah, Joe's team, he has officially lost over half his team right before the Earn the Merge. That is a first for our channel. Even I haven't done that badly, and I've had some doozies.
Yeah,
And to
yeah,
help out, we brought in Pirate Sarah last week to help maybe give some mojo, like, if we bash you. So now we brought Jake, who is like the anti-Pirate Sarah, super nice and everything. So maybe the scales will tip in your balance this time, which is somewhat a play on what the episode title was.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy to be here again and to talk about this episode because it was a great one. And I finally didn't lose anybody in the draft, but Kevin did in our Tribe of Nerds draft, and it's
yeah,
basically been me or Kevin that's lost people.
yeah. I've lost my second, third, fourth, and fifth pick now. Like it's been. And honestly, I don't have anyone who I actually think is like winner contention. Like, there's no one.
It's crazy. I like the luck. I'm just hoping that like Kevin and I just don't keep losing people and like we can get Cam and Sarah to lose a few now.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just so scared that like Rome's gonna just randomly get taken out at Earn the Merge, then I'm gonna have lost my top six people.
I don't think that's going to happen
Yeah.
for a few reasons. One, I feel like, especially with how this episode panned out,
Mhm.
um, I'm looking at who you have left, which is Rome, Sierra, Solomon, and Gabe. I feel like maybe Sierra or Gabe might be in trouble. Rome got into some trouble this episode, but we'll touch on that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think this was a fun episode. I will say they built up the twist a little bit too much
Hmm.
because I thought it was
Mhm.
going to be something like absolutely nuts. And I'm like, okay, join reward. That's cool.
Mhm.
But
I'll be
yeah,
honest, I actually love this twist. I want this to be like a staple. Um,
yeah,
because I wish that we got to see Gabe being by himself. I know that there's actually a secret scene of it. But I wish that we would have seen that because when I saw like the divisions, I was like, one tribe is guaranteed to have someone with just one person returning by themselves.
Yeah.
And so I was like super excited about that. I really wanted to see Roman and Andy actually interact. Like this would have been great to see those two play cornhole together.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah,
so I actually love the twist. I think that we got the less interesting outcome of the teams. Like I would have
yeah,
way preferred the other team, but
Mhm.
like as a concept, I love it that you're right. It would just have people interact. There's not really a game too much aspect in terms of like, oh, you're going there for a journey and you're going to get this advantage. It's
yeah,
like they're getting to just like talk to each other, and that's what's going to actually be what matters
Yeah.
in the next stage.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm with both of you because I thought that this was going to be something like crazier because of like the advertising, the marketing
Mhm.
for this. But then it just being a social hour for people to chat, I liked it a lot. Like
Mhm.
yeah,
this is what you watch Survivor for, is people building up bonds with each other that are going to matter later in the game. So,
yeah.
Mhm.
It did touch on a lot of stuff that was going to affect later on. Like I feel like things that were like discussed there, like certain people being on the outs, and we saw like Tiana putting out Gabe's name out there,
Mhm.
Teeny telling everyone that they're on the outs, Sue letting Sam know is like, hey, people are saying that you and Sierra are running the shots, and he's like, um
mhm.
a lot of things have happened there. So like it was
Mhm.
definitely important, I think, like long term wise, especially like now that Gata went to tribal council and they come back, I feel like a lot more attention is gonna be on there. And then maybe they're actually right because like like that was revealed to everyone, and it's like, everyone is bringing back something from that, like their notes and whatnot.
Mhm.
So the fact like when they come and then you see Annika go, it's like, oh, so like, there might be some truth to that, that they might do. And we kind of see a little bit in the preview, like it cuts to Sam when there was like, oh, we might have to get rid of him now. I don't like the way he's talking. I don't think it is Sam. I feel
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
there's maybe one or two people where that could be, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Sam actually like played this round perfectly. Like he got
Yeah.
his way completely across the
Yeah.
board. That we can talk about that later. But like I don't know. I mean, I it definitely could be him that they're talking about, but I almost don't think so. Like I hope not because A is my winner pick and it's just him and Rome that I've left. And I because of them being getting so much screen time, I think that they're gonna be safe for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you never know. In the new era, sometimes they love to give someone who's going out early, but they like that person. They'll say,
That's
"We're going
true.
to give you just a bunch of screen time, and then we'll figure
Banu.
it out afterwards."
Yeah, Banu, yes.
Yeah.
Banu, I think, was a famous example of that. But I know sometimes they do it to also like subvert expectations.
Mhm.
I think they're better about like, they're trying to find that balance because I know a lot of people weren't happy with Erica's edit for how she won.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, so I know they're like fixing that a little bit, and I feel like it is trial by error when it comes to that. But I will say also that this episode we definitely saw a lot of the Labo tribe
Mhm.
in the beginning. That's typical because like usually after the vote they like to check in with the like tribe that just went, being like, "Oh, hey, what happened?"
Mhm.
If someone's on the outs, people are talking to them, trying to like rationalize their decision, etc.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean that tribe honestly probably would have been the most interesting tribe in my opinion to have gone to tribal this episode because of what Rome was just doing, where he,
Yeah,
he basically told Soul, "Hey, Genevieve, is doesn't really want to work with you," and then Soul and Genevieve get to talk because they're the only ones there. Like it's clearly that everyone's going to have one-on-one conversations because it's just those three there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
then Soul reveals it all. Now Jen is like, I don't know if I can trust Rome. I don't like Soul. Rome wants Teeny. Like, there's so much like weird complications that would have happened if they went.
Yeah, Lavo is probably one of my favorite tribes of the new era. Like, at
Mhm.
least they're just fascinating people, and like the
Yeah,
fact that Rome and Soul are like at this point like even on speaking terms after like the last couple weeks, like it's just really really interesting.
yeah. I
yeah.
I want
I w
those two to be the duo of the season.
yeah. They're just so. I was talking to this last week, but like their comedic, like their comedic duo, like, especially when Rome was like just babysitting. I feel like the thing is, Saul is still technically ish on the bottom. Like, yeah, Teeny was blindsided, but the thing is, it's like Saul doesn't necessarily want to work with Rome. It's like one of the things where it's like he could, but like right now, Saul can like see what his options are. Because like, what
Mhm.
else? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's something he could have kept secret with Rome, but like also talking to like Genevieve, who seems a bit more like competent in Solomon's eyes, might be a better partner moving forward as opposed to Rome. So I feel like, he's Rome is on thin ice and like
Yeah,
doing stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, Rome is dead to me, what Genevieve said. It was like your threat level's going up and my
yeah.
wanting to keep you is going down.
Mhm.
Keep that in check.
Yeah, well,
Right.
that's why I'm afraid for Rome is like he kind of is the perfect person that because we see a lot of the times when the in the new era when tribes get to the merge or earn the merge, they just figure out who's a sacrifice that is willingly like what tribe is just going to willingly sacrifice someone.
Yeah.
Rome is
Yeah.
kind of a perfect person for these players to just sacrifice. They
Right.
don't like him. He's not really shown trustworthy to now his closest allies. So now even she wouldn't go to bat for him. So it's gonna hopefully that like someone else ends up being sacrificed on a different tribe. Otherwise, he's definitely gonna be in some trouble.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely seen it, especially in the new era of like whichever tribe is the most divided ends up, yes, like you said, sacrificing somebody. Like last season, it was Mariah off
Yeah,
of the
Yeah.
I can't even
yeah.
remember the tribe name to be honest of
Uh,
last
The
season,
the
green
but
Green
one. Yeah.
Tribe, yeah.
yeah, the Green Tribe, yeah.
It, I wouldn't even say that it was I feel like Mo could have played that a little better too, because she was
Yeah,
Mhm.
clearly on the bottom. So it's like getting rid of her on the green tribe. It's like would have been easier to work with. Yeah, like, and I know we have some opinions on Q,
Hmm.
But Q was like, well, why didn't you tell us you were on the bottom?
Hmm.
Like, because like if you're on the bottom of a tribe, that's someone you want to go with. It's cool like having a majority of like, oh, this, but it's like, hey,
Hmm.
listen, if we get someone who is clearly not vibing with the rest of the vibe tribe, who is on the outs, if we have them as our number, that's a bit more beneficial.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
The thing is that Rome thinks he's like running the show. And no one else on the tribe thinks he's running the show. So
Yeah.
they 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 they
always
they they,
lie.
they easily can assume he's on the bottom and he thinks he's up here. So I think almost in that same instance where Mariah didn't say that she was on the bottom, I don't think Rome's gonna tell them he's on the bottom because
No.
he thinks he's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see because like obviously with the earn the merge, it's like I feel like with the social hour, it definitely painted some targets on people's back going into it. And
Mhm.
like the earn the merge is so random because it's like either six or several people are going to be safe at
Mhm.
that point, and it's like sometimes it just depends on if you're on the right tribe or not. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about the hourglass screwing everything up.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like, it's like one of the things like it really depends on who you're partnered up with. Maybe you
Yeah.
have someone that practiced the puzzle before. Maybe your team is just full of the strong people, etc. We've seen different iterations on what teams have won and what.
Yeah.
So going into this, it really, really depends on who's available, who are the six or several people that are able to be targeted at that point, and then
Yeah.
they go from there. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
usually it is someone that's expendable. Or Caleb, I wouldn't say was expendable. He was definitely like a big target, and so he had to play that shot in the dark at that
Right.
moment.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll see. I've historically for the past two ones lost my winner pick at this, and I'm hoping not to.
Genevieve goes right next
Oh my
episode.
God.
No, I know
Yeah.
I'm due to lose someone. However, let's not have three. Let's not have this happen three times in a row.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Now the question is, do we even think? What if they got rid of the earn the merge? Like, I feel like there's also like we haven't thought about that. They're normally in the advertisements they kind of mention or we see like the challenge of them doing it. We didn't get that in this preview. I wonder that there's actually something that they're kind of saving for us next week. That's not earn the merge.
I'd love if they got rid of her in the merge just because, like,
Um,
again, I want every season to be different and it
yeah.
just hasn't
yeah,
for the last like 3 years.
Yeah,
So,
they've had the same baseline like 90%, and then
yeah.
they do little like 10% tweaks of the game.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I will say I do like the stakes that the earn the merge brings. Now, like it's one of the things where I just consider, oh, it's just going to be a staple of the new era. If they got rid of it, I don't think, or like it's just like an occasional thing they do, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I think we're probably going to get it. Maybe it's a different way.
Mhm.
Maybe it's something where it's an individual challenge and the top performers do it, or
Yeah,
something on the lines of that.
yeah. I
Because
think
I
I'd
don't think,
rather do see that, to be honest. I think that's a
yeah,
better instance where it's like the top half of the people get safety, the bottom half are up for risk. Because then
yeah,
it's not like a random draw, and it's like, oh yay, I'm with the team that's clearly better, and then the other people are like, oh wow, we just drew the weakest people.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, I feel like there's been a couple seasons where yeah, like one team is just very much outmatching the other one.
Yeah. Well, and some
oh
seasons,
yeah,
like they'll have like a guy like a Jonathan who, like,
Yes,
if
yeah.
you're on a team with
Harry,
Jonathan, you just assume that you're going to have the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when in other seasons, like when you had James playing and you had like everybody is gonna try to get James on their team because James is gonna be like this big, strong presence in the challenges.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I think we saw in this immunity challenge how important that is because uh when we did get to see that do it, like those blocks were heavy. Those blocks were like tough to like knock down. And so you needed like a Saul on your team or a Sam or someone
Mhm.
with some bulk to them to get rid of this stuff because
Mhm.
like they thought they threw it hard and it barely made a dent. It just like shook a little bit, if that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so like it's always about the team balance in the beginning and like earn the merge. Yeah, you always pray that you have a good team because if you have
Mhm.
people that are lacking, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In an org I did, the very first org I did, I had a team where I was with two people that weren't great at challenges, and I was like, oh no, this is not good.
Well, as someone who actually single-handedly lost a challenge for my tribe, I can I can attest to that part of it.
Yeah, it's never good. But I think it's one of the things where it depends on who it is. Like if I'm looking at this list of people that are remaining, I don't think we lose a Sue. I don't think we lose. I think Teeny is actually very safe here.
Mhm. I think so
I
too.
feel like yeah, it's something like you either lose someone that one team is expendable, think is expendable, or you lose someone that is. I don't think we've lost anyone too critical in my opinion,
Mhm.
when it came to the earn the merge. Like, obviously, people I was like cheering for, but like, I wouldn't say like they were like the sun of like the strategy where everything is kind of circling them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say maybe the biggest one in the merge in the past few seasons was like Ellie in 43 because she was like a big part of like that
Yeah.
tribe with Gabler and she was part of Gabler's winning
Yeah,
story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She was the winning move that Gabler made was that.
yeah,
yeah.
getting rid of her. That's probably the biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
I feel like Tiana is someone who I definitely am a little concerned about next week. Her telling everyone, like throwing out Gabe's name, and Gabe, I think, just clearly being in a good spot with Sue and Caroline, just like I can easily see those three heavily pushing Tiana.
Mhm.
I think I could see almost anyone on the yellow, to be honest, like also being potentially at least their name going out there, potentially being a
Yeah.
boot.
Yeah.
Because Sam and Sierra have been getting the heat on the other tribes, which is always threatening. Andy, someone who is just like as I described with Rome, easily expendable here, where if you see the heat's coming to you, just throw it Andy. Andy goes.
Mhm.
And then Rachel, just not being in with those three, if those three have some kind of control, they might also throw her under the bus.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then Rome is, I would say, the person on red who's most likely to get sniped. Those would be who I'm assuming are in the most danger going into next week.
Yeah, I
I
would
agree.
probably agree with that. Just based on how the season has gone, though, I could see it just being someone we definitely don't expect.
Yeah.
I do expect it to be either Rome, Sierra, Solomon, or Gabe because, the math is mathing here. It's going to be someone that Joe picked, and that's one of the four.
If it is, wow, just wow.
That's
I
insane.
I've already, so we decide there's like two ways you can win our fantasy draft. One is getting the winner, obviously, and the other is like placement wise. Because I've lost the first five people, I literally statistically can't win placement wise anymore. It is now become statistically
Oh my God.
yeah.
It's karma. It's karma. You hired Rome to make fun of me about
Yeah.
never choosing a winner pick, and now you're reaping what you have sown. Karma.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's funny is Rome saw that in the draft pick afterwards and was like, "Oh, whoa, this guy's got something that he's not gonna look forward to."
Oh my
Yep.
God.
He
Uh,
knows the order. He knows.
yeah.
Um, no, I think other interesting developments on this episode. You know, I think like there was like we did really see a lot of lava before the challenge, but after the fact, we still saw lava. We got like one scene with the blue tribe. I'm even forgetting the name because like I feel like
Uh, Tuku.
Cuckoo, yeah.
Tuku, yeah. It's like I feel like, and that's why I'm a little concerned that the winner is probably not from there. Or like even
Mhm.
though
Hmm.
Gabe is getting a lot of screen time, Sue is getting a lot of screen time, we don't see it as much. So I'm like a little curious
Hmm.
that the winner isn't from there.
Yeah, it seems like Gabe and Sue are going to be power players on the season.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I could see them going again, taking out like 5, 6. I kind of even could see Gabe being like a second or third jury member, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
just kind of making it there, winning a challenge or two, and then getting taken out.
Yeah, I would say Gabe is I could see him going around there as well. I think there's Caroline who I think is like in a solid position right now, but she also hasn't gotten too much airtime.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where she ends up landing. I don't think
Yeah,
she wins based on the edit,
yeah.
but
Yeah. Um, if I were to guess by like the amount, like basically this entire like pre-merge portion, I would have to say the front runners are Teeny, Sam, and she's been getting more screen time recently. So maybe it was like maybe Genevieve. I may be biased. I feel like the dark horse is probably Rome, like
mhm.
because
Hmm.
he's been playing such a crazy game. Some people might want to keep him around because he's been so crazy, and then he can be like, "Yeah, I was a target. I did this, this,
Yeah,
this, and this." I controlled
yeah.
so much of what was happening for a lot of, for all intents and purposes, he actually did control a lot of the vote of
Hmm.
things going on. He made himself valuable to Jen, to Teeny and stuff that saved him from votes. So there is some merit to his game.
Yeah, I appreciate you throwing me a bone there, Ryan. I need something. I need something over here.
It's something I genuinely believe in. You
Yeah,
remember, I was going to choose him too.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be honest, and I thought of this last this recent episode. I think a dark horse to win this season is Andy.
Oh.
I think this episode I saw like he we saw the strategy of this
He did.
move through Andy's eyes, through the decoy plan. That was what they decided to show us, was what we was going through with him. Um we
Yeah.
also saw, I mean, potentially it was chaotic strategy episode one, but we saw the game through Andy's eyes in episode one. Every time we've seen the yellow tribe through Andy's eyes, most of it. um and to me, like, whenever you're seeing it like that, that's like heavily signs for a winner. And he's he had such a chaotic thing that you episode one, that you're like, you write them off, you're like, you this person can't win. But we also said that about Gabler. Like, just because you have a
That's
bad
true.
episode one does not mean that you can't suddenly improve your edit, improve your game, improve your way to get to the end. Like, his story at the end, if he got there, like, could potentially be like really great to a jury.
Solid
Yeah,
point.
yeah, I was one of those people that was ready to write Andy off episode
Hmm.
one, but then these past few weeks, I've actually liked Andy more.
Yeah.
Like he has stopped being like I thought he was going to be the next Bonu, to be honest. And
Yeah.
then I was like, I'm glad to be Ron in this case, but because Andy has like way more game sense than Bonu ever did. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know like what was the case, but I think he just got out there and had a bunch of panic attacks early on because he was in a
yeah,
new environment and everything, and just
Yeah.
did not think very well for the first like 3 to 5 days of the game. And
yeah,
now,
I also think, yeah. I also think with Andy, yeah, it was getting to that point, but I feel like he's still, the very least, and this is why I was a little, it was interesting going into this tribal council because, like, I thought it was like, yeah, we were getting a lot of screen time with Andy and stuff, but like, it was really all about where did Sam and Sierra want to go? Did they want to get rid of Annika? Did they want to get rid of Andy? Because like Sierra was really trying to figure that out. And like even like, and I feel like even with the edit, like there were some things where it's like you build someone up, if they feel like they're in control, and then it's kind of like that thing in the edit. Like I felt like
Mhm.
it was very possible that he could have been eliminated there. And I know, like, at Tribal Council, when we're seeing Sam and Sierra's faces and them reacting to some of the things that Andy says, it's like, this very much could have been a, of Mice Among Men thing where he's looking across the lake, he's envisioning the thing, and, like, you know, they're pulling their revolver and they're like, no, you're about to go. You're about to go.
Yeah.
Just keep thinking about the rest. Uh, but no, it didn't turn out, especially when he got the last word. It's like, I'm excited to see what might happen next. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
that could be something where, ooh, that's like a brutal thing. I feel like this elimination was brutal, but it was just straight up by Annika's reaction to
Yes.
it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Survivor 45, and we had Kelly in that season have like the brutal reaction, what the hell, guys? And then this season now it's like the next to the new era, this brutal reaction. And I want to talk up Sam's game here because the fact of the matter is like his idol expired last night,
Yeah,
Hmm.
and he could have played it and like completely exposed that he'd been lying to Andy this entire time. He didn't need to play it. He got Sierra to vote with him and Andy to vote Annika off.
Yeah.
And like and he doesn't have Annika throwing out his name because she was obviously throwing out his name as a decoy plan. Obviously she was gonna not include him in stuff later in the game.
Yeah.
So like I absolutely think this was a great move for Sam, and he has complete trust of Sierra and Andy at least.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now Rachel can very much flip the script and throw Sam under the bus. So I totally get that. But I feel like Sam played it as perfectly as he could have last night.
agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, absolutely. Sam's assumingly in the best place. It really just is going to depend if Rachel is, if she wants to immediately jump ship, it's going to be tough for them. But if you're in one of those situations where you're just trying to like feel things out and see what happens and then do it later, then I think she might be in some trouble instead.
Mhm.
I actually think the blue tribe out of all three of the tribes was the one that needed to go to tribal. Just in terms of chemistry, like there's
Mhm.
clear divisions between
Yeah,
that tribe that
Yeah.
I actually I think that they would have benefited from losing that challenge just so that way at least something can happen so that they would be a little more unified going into this merge. Because it's not like they have too much numbers over the other tribes either. They're only one person up over them, so it's not
Right.
like they can really strong arm too much.
not
So
really, no.
so yeah.
I would say this one is interesting too because you have the whole Tiana, the Gabe dynamic. Another thing, and I mean, like this would have happened either way, whether it was Annika or Kyle going into it. But they're going into the earn the merge, this next portion of the game. Kyle is going to this portion without a vote at the beginning,
Hmm.
which sucks because it's like, okay, this is like pivotal part where it's like, hey, if I don't, have the vote and then my tribe doesn't have the numbers, we could be really screwed here.
Mhm.
Um, because all it takes is vote's missing to like really screw everything up.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I wasn't sure if like in past New Era seasons if the Earn the Merge is where like the losing a vote like ended or like it went through Earn the Merge because I thought for some reason there was like a day from the losing your vote that you get it back and like when you merged or
In the early parts of the new era, it would be like the idol, and you'd have to do something. And if you didn't do it by the merge section, then you'd get it back. But I
okay.
believe with this stuff, yeah, it's like it said the next
Yeah.
tribal council that you attend. So I believe
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
still, yeah.
Yeah, I
And I mean
wasn't
like
sure.
in 45, Austin lost his vote, but it was able to be hidden because of all the canceled votes and everything. And I think with
Right.
all the
Mhm.
Right.
chaos,
I
no
remember
one
that
really
now.
looked into it too much.
Mhm.
So it still kind of like plays out.
Yeah, I remember that now. So that's what I was thinking was 41
Mhm.
and 42 with the beware advantages and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, where you had to say weird phrases at the immunity challenge.
Yeah, I don't really miss that. I'm kind of
No,
glad that's
it was funny meme wise at first, but here, getting it every
Yeah,
episode was
you
definitely
could
too much.
yeah.
you could only really get away with it for 2 seasons. That's what I like that they like switched it up to. Like, oh, there's different ways to do the beware. Like the beads. I feel like the beads was a very clever way of doing it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let's see, the cage one was funny. Um Caroline just puts an X in there and just tips
Oh my
everyone off.
God.
Yeah, that was so.
Yeah.
I don't know. At some
Um
point, I'll have to rewatch the new era to kind of like
Mhm.
remember a lot of this stuff too, because I've not rewatched it yet.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
yeah, same. I mean, they all kind of blend together at certain points. Like they're like you might remember like this one or two people from each season, and then like
mhm.
besides that, you kind of go like, was this person on 43, 44? Like
Yeah.
it kind of can get
I will
mixed.
say doing this really does help.
Yeah,
I would say like if I would say because like even when Joe and I were going through some of our earlier like brand steals on this channel, I would be like, "Who's this person? Who's this person?" And
mhm.
then and I have seen the season, and Joe was like, "How did you forget them?" I'm like, uh, but I feel like because we're people that were very active in the Survivor fan community,
Mhm.
and we do have podcasts where we review everything, that I think it makes us a little more aware. Now, that being
Yeah,
said, if it's someone that didn't get a really great edit in the sense of like they didn't get a lot of screen time, then maybe it'd be like, oh yeah, that person, yeah.
uh,
Um, or like I would say with 44, I'm a little foggy on if Earn the Merge was at 13 or 12, stuff like that. But for the
Ooh.
most part, I'm like a little bit more like aware of like who's been on what season because of podcasting.
Right. Yeah,
mhm.
I remember also like doing before 46 came out, I remember we did a new era review of 41 through 45 together, Kevin and Cam and Sarah and I. And but I didn't rewatch for those. I rewatched the first 40 for the first few parts of our season reviews, but
Yeah,
I
Mhm.
just never got around to the new era.
Yeah, I mean, I think 41 especially is a hard watch. Like, I just don't. I think it's
yeah,
just nuts. And
Yeah.
42 too. I mean, the 42 was better with the hourglass a little bit. Like, it wasn't as egregious. But 41 is just like you just don't. It's one of those like it just ruins the momentum of anything that they were trying in that season.
well,
Yeah, the
especially because they were like, hey, if Jeff pulled a Deadpool, it was like, yeah, we're not going to actually vote someone out this episode. And I'm like, say
Yeah,
what? And they left it on a cliffhanger that not many people
yeah.
were a fan of. And like obviously
no.
Erica was gonna break it. So like
I had some huge rants that season because
yeah.
Yeah,
I was not happy.
that was a terrible decision. I think the only other time Survivor's done a cliffhanger, I believe, was actually in Panama, Exile
Yeah.
Island. They
Mhm.
With
did it right before the
fire making.
finale, and I think it was
Yeah.
literally because they all wanted to give Suri like a little bit more like people to tune in because they love Suri.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that time,
It's okay, Jake.
so
You can say screen time. I
yeah.
could hear you fighting not to say it.
But yeah, so then the only two times in Survivor history, Panama was fine, but like 41 doing it was just a bad decision all around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say also one of the tough things about, especially like with some of these reality competition shows, there's a lot of episodes. Also, they're ongoing shows too. When it was like the pandemic, it was so much easier to rewatch these seasons.
Hmm.
Like even in the span of a week, being able to be like, oh hey, I'm gonna watch this week. I'm watching all of Panama, or this week I'm watching all of Heroes versus Villains,
Yep.
what
Hmm.
have you. Whereas like we're not only doing this, there's ongoing seasons of that. We have like jobs, stuff like that. So it's really, really tough to like backtrack and watch everything. Obviously, if we really wanted to, we could create time, but it is something where it becomes more of a chore as opposed to like, oh, I'm enjoying this show as it's, rewatching it for sentimental stuff.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I saw like Jeff Probst had talked about recently that now when they like make the episodes and stuff, they're under more the impression of like the audience is more in that to the like serialization of TV shows, like where they're
Yeah.
like, you've seen the previous season, so that's why they're okay with like showing all this stuff, and like they don't explain things as much anymore because they're like,
Yeah.
we explained it in a different season, you've seen that season, so here you go, we're not going to explain it to you anymore. Whereas previously they were like, this is a standalone season that you can watch by itself. I actually think it's kind of hard now for especially like casual fans sometimes to watch some of these newer seasons because maybe they kind of watch it, they don't really know. I watch the episodes with casual fans,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they have questions for me all the time, like they don't understand
Yeah.
what's going on, they
You
like.
need a survivor buddy.
Yeah, the amulets, they were like, we've seen that before. Why are they saying that that's new? And I was like, well, no, it's new because of the now it's like full idols instead of gaining these things. And they were they didn't get us. They like even that like I was like walking them through step by step, and they didn't really get it. So there is definitely like I don't know. I'm not sure if I like the fact that they're like kind of almost gatekeeping in a way where they're like, we got our fans, we're only going to really be going to them, and if other people come in, then that's cool, but we're just kind of doing it like this.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
say it's
not. You
I'd
can
say
go,
it's
Ryan.
tough sometimes because like I would say yes, it's hard for some. I don't think it's anything like, oh, they're being like, you know, looking down on anyone who hasn't seen any of the previous
Mhm.
seasons. I think it's more so like they know the core people are watching, and sometimes now, granted, they have more time to explain things with the increased runtime of it,
Yeah,
but it's like I'd say it's more so of like, all right, we want to cover other stuff. We know
yeah.
usually they read out what happens anyway with the advantage and stuff.
Mhm.
But like, I think for the casual audience, their core fan base, it's like, if you've played a Pokemon game before, or like you've played like a sequel to a video game, and like you go through all the tutorial, I'm like, yes, 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 I know what this is. I know that fire beats grass. Yes, I know how to
Yeah,
shoot in Call of Duty. It's like okay, 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 yeah,
yeah.
let's get back to the stuff. It is interesting because I do wonder how like newer fans find the show. Because
Mhm.
like usually it's like you have like a survivor buddy that kind of like guides you. You're kind of like the person that
Mhm.
opens the gate and be like, hey, this is where you should watch, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like it's so difficult now, and like you can show someone like Survivor Kagiyan or like trying to think of another season like China or something
Yeah.
like Token Teens, something like that. It's very easy for someone to pick up a season like that and with no issues, but then like you're kind of throwing them to the wolves almost if you're showing them like Survivor 47 like as their
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
Survivor season.
Yeah, I did show my friends. I got them in on 45. I actually think that that's a decent one to like introduce. No, I yet again I had to explain a lot of stuff like that was going on. Like almost every episode, I have to explain like this is what this is, this is what this is. Um, whereas and I feel like that's why some of like the old school seasons, I don't necessarily think the old school seasons are like that good compared to like some of the later seasons, but
Mhm.
they were very much like you can just watch this, you get exactly what's going on, you get that these kind of people, like you can see them in real life kind of situations, um and it's its own story that you can just kind of hop into. um
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, like as you said, Joe, with like the old school seasons. Like it's very difficult to like start someone on Borneo or Australian Outback
yeah,
compared to like starting them on Cagayan and like
Yeah.
being
yeah,
like people aren't gonna get into like season one and two
yeah.
as well anymore.
No, no. I specifically say only watch Borneo if you are a fan, like like you love the show. Like you have
Mhm,
to absolutely love the show now to watch Borneo.
mhm.
Otherwise I mean, you're not getting anything from it either because it's a different show. Only one person
Yeah.
Very
out
much
there
is.
understood what was happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually really love Borneo for being like part of its time and just being like this somehow it's still interesting,
Yeah.
even though the game itself isn't super interesting because on paper it's just literally Pagan, the
mhm.
Paganing of that
Yeah.
tribe, and
Yeah.
like literally the one person that understands it wins the game.
Yeah. I mean, it just had a good cast. Like
Yeah,
this was kind of
Yeah.
casting when they were like, we need to have our cast be, just like of all different ages, of occupations, backgrounds. Like they really kind of
right.
hit everything in terms of like what we really want, in my opinion, of like the diversity, like of a diverse cast is like different backgrounds, like of different
Diverse
walks
in
of life.
2000. Let's be diverse
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, diverse in
Well, yeah.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Uh, okay, well, back onto the episode.
Yes, yes.
Let's talk about Andy with the saw on the challenge.
oh
Yeah.
my God. That was the funniest, like, I I don't know, reaction is the word, but like the funniest
Yeah.
way, it's the funniest way to saw a rope.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he started by like, I think he was the one who was started cutting,
Chopping.
yeah, chopping,
Yes. Yeah, I
and
was
then
chopping
that,
it.
and then that didn't work, and then he had to switch it around to the other side.
I
Yeah.
think it's one of those. I blame. I don't blame him as much because it's not like the blade was like right here. It's not like he had a machete and then the like sharpness was there. It was higher up. So maybe it was that, or maybe because of like the angle of the blade, it was something definitely cost them the game because like,
Yeah,
even Sam was like, you know, if that didn't happen, we probably would have won.
yeah.
But,
You get that extra 3 to 5 seconds that might have cost,
exactly.
and bam, they're just a little quicker. Um,
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know what? They kept this guy instead of keeping John, who I would have much preferred at that time.
Yeah. I would still prefer John Lovett, but I mean, Andy's been a decent character. I did want
Yeah.
to mention his amazing voting confessional for Annika of being like, I've spent 10 days burying you. Here's your head stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that happened, I'm like, oh, is he gonna be eliminated? Because that's
Oh, yeah, I was
Uh-huh.
talking to Austin Fote during the episode, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be hilarious if this is Andy's last confessional.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It would have been like he's the Drew Christie of the season.
Yes,
Like he would
yes.
have he thinks he's got it all worked out. Here's his master plan. And
And
then
this is his boot episode.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also got to talk about the chickens because that was a huge thing. I'm actually very interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on this because I personally think that Jeff gave way too much for those chickens.
Yeah, this
I don't
is
think so.
I do agree because like I feel like in the past Jeff would not have been this lenient. I
Yeah.
really think he would have told them like tough shit, you're losing all your chickens. Like you're
Yeah.
not getting anything out of
No,
this.
Yeah.
I no, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, no, a dozen and a half is like decent because like it's a thing where I felt like, all right, one, I feel like whoever negotiated, I'm a little foggy. They did right by starting with a ridiculous amount. Be like, oh, 24 or 36 eggs. Like like that's just negotiation. You say something, that's not your actual goal, and they met somewhere in the middle. I felt like 18 eggs was probably like what I'd be like, that's a fair trade because the chickens, even though they didn't want to kill them, if they did, that's a lot more like nutrition. It's like 18 eggs, like I'd say that's like a decent meal between 5 people. But like 3 chickens, like that's like 3 different meals right there.
The real issue is first off they didn't know how to take care of chickens. What they needed to do was not keep them in that little crate. Like that's just to like transport them, and then you're supposed to build like a coop essentially, or like
Mhm.
we've seen like them put leashes and stuff around the chickens before. They need to do something like that because chickens need to roam, otherwise they're not going to lay very many eggs. So that's why you only got the 2.5 eggs or whatever, because
Yeah.
because of that. So I think that's a issue on them for not being able
Yeah.
to produce the eggs. So they should
Well,
not be rewarded. And
right.
typically, whenever we have those situations where they bring in a reward, they always like get like the secondary thing or like something that's beneath it. And to me, like what was it? It was just like 6 eggs for the second place of that challenge, that they got it
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
they got an extra 12 eggs besides what the secondary thing would have been.
Yeah.
Higher reward.
Yeah, but they're giving it up. They need to have a sacrifice to it. They can't have an even trade basically. Plus, they're getting
I'm
the eggs up front. You know, like part
Yeah.
of it is that they're supposed to have, like it come out just a little bit each day to kind of get you through. Instead, you get a bunch all in one go.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that's
just
what they did. That's what Jeff was like, yeah, okay, like 24 would be the normal amount, but you want them all now. No, it's diminishing returns. So 12.
Yeah, and then they go to 18, so 6 eggs per chicken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to past negotiations and like I know like Australian Outback again it hasn't necessarily aged particularly well, but like when Jeff took like the tarp like Colby's
Yeah.
Texas flag is the tarp and all that stuff and they'd like literally suffer in like the flood and like whatnot and
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know like back then they were being way harsher and I'm
Yeah.
thinking back, I think Blood versus Water 2, I think Missy cooked all their rice, so then like they had to like sacrifice all their tarp then too to get more rice because
Yeah.
they were eating too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I forgot what season, but there was yeah, one season where Jeff just came to the camp and essentially took every reward that this tribe had gotten
yes.
just to get like I think like a flint or something like that. It's like it was something really small.
Yeah,
I will say,
I don't know. It's tough.
no,
You can go, Ryan.
I will. Well, I think the thing is, it's just like eh, when you have, when you like you're negotiating and stuff like that, it's a little different because it's not as like they're getting eggs right now. Fun fact about eggs, they aren't non-perishables. They go bad fast. And so like it's something like
Yeah.
that's just the meal for tonight. That is the meal for tonight. Like I said, 3 chickens, you can have chicken for 3 different meals. So like and that's why getting the eggs and not having the flint to make fire was so, like kind of like devastating because it's like those will go bad. Um like I'm pretty sure they're already bad by now if they don't know how to like I don't know if there's like a way to like preserve eggs out in the open, stuff like that, or I don't know how like
Yeah.
fridging or refrigerators and stuff work when it comes to like that out
Yeah.
there, but
I think
I
free
know
range eggs are at least a few days. So they probably have I bet you that they got to eat them like the merge. Like they probably have to eat them that day when they all get
yeah.
there. Um but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's too much. I think because one of the things also that I think is interesting is that moral decision of do you kill the chickens? Um I think that if they decide against it, they shouldn't be able to just give them up and then still get food. I think if they're going to make the decision not to kill the chickens, they should see the consequences of it too. Like they should
Mhm.
see both sides. You can't you can't have your chickens and eat their eggs too. Like you can't
Yeah.
you can't have both of them essentially.
I
Yeah.
was actually a little shocked to see the chickens because I had thought since I think Koran because of Ty, I thought at one point Sia and like Ty made it that they couldn't have chickens anymore on the
Mhm.
show. So
Yeah,
I don't remember any of their instances since
yeah,
Koran that was a thing. And so to
yeah,
see the chickens as an actual reward,
yeah.
like
Yeah, well, it's
Maybe they
because
were like,
of it's because of Sia is no longer
yeah,
giving the Sia mod.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I was
they
thinking that's probably it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they Sia left and they're like, okay, Sia's gone, we can get chickens
Yeah.
back.
Which, by the way, sucks for the cast of 46 because she said, I'm not giving any more money and didn't give any of them.
Yep, yep, and
Oh,
now it's Q,
Yeah.
which we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
yeah. No. Um, and then yeah, I feel the last thing we have to talk about really is I know we talked about Annika's demise in the game, but like I remember watching this and like I watched it twice. I watched it right before we started recording, and it was like, oh, like the music was so like minimal.
Mhm.
But like,
Mhm.
it was like she was just in shock. And I feel like
Yes.
another thing too, it's like she's in the mindset, Andy is obviously a bad player. Why am I being voted out right now? Like, it's like, are you for real? And so I think that's one of the things that made it tough. It was like when someone you seem that seems incompetent is going further ahead of you in a competition. You just are like, how? Why? This makes zero sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's like Kelly and 45 going over Jake and not understanding why at that moment. It reminds me, I mean, it reminds me more though of Michaela Bradshaw and Millennials versus Gen X of being like this just but I mean Michaela's was just actually felt out of nowhere, and so did Kelly's, and this one I feel like was telegraphed for the past few episodes that Annika was a likely target because of her feuding with Sam.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured that she was going to be in trouble if Gata went here just in general. So like for me as like a viewer, I expected it. But when you're
Yeah.
out there, you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. Next up, I think we're time for confessional count. Confessional count.
Yes.
Jake, is what we do. Yes, on my channel, we measure screen time. You know, that is something we do. To be fair, Joe, that was Joe's idea,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not mine.
Yeah. Can you guess, Jake, who has the most confessionals so far? I don't know if you've been keeping track of this.
I think I saw something, and I've kind of been looking like every couple weeks. I think it's Rome or Sam. I'm gonna say Rome.
It is Sam.
Okay, so
Yep.
all right. No,
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with that. I don't, but then again, he could just be this shocking. I think Sam is either going to go end up going all the way, or he's like going to be this like shocking early mid merge blindside that like kind of talk like is like a sign of like the whole season being crazy.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, he got most of his screen time in episode 2 when he had 16 confessionals.
Yeah, I do remember that. I just
Yeah,
thought because of Lavo losing so much and like Rome being like the forefront of that, I
yeah,
almost thought Rome had the most. But I is Rome
yeah.
second in confessional
He
count?
he he is. He's
Yeah.
at 31
Yeah.
confessionals.
Okay.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll let you know. Annika ends with 14 confessionals here. She actually only got one confessional in her boot episode, which is a little sad to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And the episode and the confessional was what, in my opinion, gave it away that she was going home because she said
mhm.
she would basically was like, I feel so secure, I can't go home. Whenever you say that, that's when you go home. Um,
Yeah, Andy also had like a one or two that felt that it could be telegraphing his as well though. So
mhm.
I don't know, but I definitely felt maybe it was leaning more towards Annika a little bit, but
Yeah,
um I don't
yeah,
know. Like we've also seen like people get too many confessionals and then they do get booted. So
yeah,
it
yep,
happens quite often in Australian Survivor where they bloat their edits and then those people actually end up going way earlier than you would think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, going through confessionals here. So yeah, Sam 35 confessionals leader, Rome 31 confessionals. Next up we got Gabe with 27 confessionals.
Hmm.
And then we got a tie between Teeny and Andy for 25 confessionals.
Makes
And then
sense.
we got Sue at 20 confessionals. And then we got a tie between Rachel and Sierra at 14 confessionals.
Mhm.
Then we have another tie at 13 between Genevieve, Sol, and Tiana.
All right.
And then at the very bottom, we have Kyle and Caroline at 9 confessionals.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even at double digits yet.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, what like Jacob Derwin, Zane Knight had like what 9 or 10 in their only
Yeah.
episode.
John this
Well, so
season
crazy.
had 9 in his boot episode. So
That's
he's.
so crazy.
Well, I think it's also like, well, to be fair, in Jacob Derwin's elimination, it was a two-parter
Yeah,
episode. So
it was basically 2 episodes.
Yeah.
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 yeah, so there is that. But I feel like, there are some more. I would say like there are some crazier first boots where you just have to like hear what these people have to say. That's why, other than Jelensky getting several, like seven, other than the joke, it was like this dude is like comedic gold. We just need to film this guy and get it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think like when it comes to confessionals, it's relevant. It's relevance to the overall game. winner equity, etc. Like they're balancing so much. So I think that it is kind of shitty that some people they don't get as much love when it comes to confessional account, but it's the editors trying to do the best of what they can do.
Yeah, or in
Yeah.
some cases, the editors are punishing people for either quitting or
Yeah.
like, yeah, just not giving much. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that being said, let's get into our MVPs and LVPs of
oh,
the episode. We also like to do this here, Jake. Um, yeah, let's start with MVP because I think MVP is super obvious.
yeah, I gotta go with my boy Sam.
Yeah, I think Sam just I mean, this move just was the best for him. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
he clearly is like setting himself up at least the best of his ability for the next stage. Whether that ends up
Mhm.
working out, we don't know yet, but this is definitely the best route for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't think there's any other choice for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like LVP has a lot of options because I do think that there's a lot
Yeah.
of sloppy, messy gameplay that we can award to.
I
Oh my
might give it
God.
I don't want to give it to Rome. I feel like he's one of the people because like he's on thin ice, whereas Tiana
Yeah.
I think might have sunk her game by like throwing Gabe's out there too early because it's like you don't know if they're going to travel again. You don't know this. I think it's like, oh, I have other tribe mates. Let me see like if I can throw out a target right then and there. It's like
Mhm.
I think she did it a little too early, so I'm gonna say Tiana.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
I'm
uh,
actually gonna agree with Tiana.
saying that's who I was thinking as well. So I like hit my forehead when she started throwing out Gabe's name because like I'm like, oh Tiana, that was not the move.
Yeah,
That's not what you needed to do in this situation. Yeah.
I don't know. And it's just like, I feel like you should be able to read the room as soon as you see that like Sue and Caroline are basically being silent that entire time. It's like,
Yeah.
it just seemed very, very clear to me. And I'm a little shocked because it seems like she's someone who's very, very social and would be able to, I guess, read the room in this situation. But
Yeah, I think she just assumed that
Hey,
Gabe's not as
Lady
close
Strong.
to yeah, that Gabe can't be as close to Sue and Caroline. Uh, I actually kind of think that when they voted out TK, that she assumed Gabe was going to be sticking with the boys so much,
yeah,
and that she was shocked that actually Gabe flipped. Like I think that she might have even thought in that because we never saw the reaction afterwards of that with Tiana. We didn't get to see
no.
like her be like, "I made this flip because of this," and I feel like that's because in her mind she wasn't actually the flipper.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of telling as to what's going to happen and that Tiana could be a very likely earn the merge boot here.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And then obviously we've talked about it throughout because it's always exciting the merge coming together. Like not saying that some people say the game doesn't start until then. I disagree, but like it is always exciting when that does happen because it's a lot crazier gameplay, it's bigger numbers, and higher stakes as a result because it's like, okay, like, this is where everyone's here to play. You can't hide as much because like now you're being watched. Even if
Mhm.
there are bigger targets out there, you're still being watched by
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, and next boot is the one that really sucks because you're so close to getting jury.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you get a taste of the merge, but you don't actually get the like experience like being a part of like the rest of the season essentially.
Yeah.
So this is always the one that I feel like stings the most is going out right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also of the belief that the whole game matters, not just the merge. I think the pre-merge builds you up to the merge,
Yeah.
and any moves that you make completely matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's partially what's the decision that is based on who gets eliminated first.
Right,
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
hey,
Yeah.
Exactly.
who
Yeah.
are you tight with?
I
Are
think
these people too
pre-merge doesn't decide if you win the game, but
Right.
it allows you the opportunity to get there because it only matters to the people who you're playing the game with, like the
True.
Yeah.
pre-merge. So if you're explaining a move that no one has really seen, like who they don't care about
Makes it
that.
tougher, yeah.
Exactly. So it really is just like trying to get a few people who you're really close with, and then hopefully when the merge comes, like you can all like send out your tendrils and get your connections with certain people and find yourself to be the most well-connected person in the game.
Mhm.
Well said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that does it. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about of the episode, or are we good?
I
I
think
think we're
covered every.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch
Okay.
Tribe of Nerds.
Yep.
Yes,
When Jake
yes.
does
Yep.
that. Yeah. They have a lot of great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also
Yeah,
watch
there's
Tomodachi Game, where Jake also was a contestant on. He did
Yeah.
great.
Great game.
yeah, I was just the good boy, and someone played the good boy better. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely go check out Tribe of Nerds, and we've got Survivor content over there, of course. Kind of falling behind on the recaps right now, but we'll get back into action hopefully with that. But we got a lot of other content. We got our reality after show content that's coming out as well,
Mhm.
and got a pretty exciting announcement that. I'm going to be doing some new content on the main channel with Austin Fote. So stay
Ooh,
tuned for
nice.
that.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
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 And then also look for us on the reality after show. It is coming soon.
Mhm.
We've just had like a conversation with the editor, so hang tight, and we'll obviously let you know when that comes.
Yep, definitely. Big things coming out of Day After and Tribe of Nerds. So
Yeah.
definitely a lot of fun stuff to be watching in the near future.
Yeah. We're going to have more collaborations too, I'm sure. So,
Yep,
Oh, definitely.
definitely. Um, okay. Well, with that being said, I think we have now reached the end of the podcast. Thank you, Jake, for joining us on this recap here. And thank you everyone for watching.
Peace.
Adios.